Hello, everyone, and welcome to OurVentura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. On today's show, I'd like to welcome Andrea Trank. She is a certified yoga instructor, teacher, and health coach, and she's here to inspire us today with aging vibrantly, no matter what you're facing in life. So we'd like to hear some of her great advice. And thank you, Andrea, for being here today. Good to have you.
Well, I'm very excited to be here, Sandra. I come by this honestly because I wasn't aging very well. And then my mother was dying of Alzheimer's, and all of that scared me. And I decided to make some drastic changes at age 50. And I'm now 65, and I feel like I have been aging backwards by doing all these lifestyle changes.
Well, many of us, as we age, there's a lot of changes that we're going to face. So we'd like you to tell us about aging vibrantly. What are some of the things many of us can do to make a difference and helping us along here?
Well, that's a really good question. And here's the issue. It's what happens to us as we start to age is we go to doctors, and the doctors will say, well, don't do this anymore. Take this pill, do this, do that. And we start to feel unempowered. But you don't have to feel unempowered. There are so many things you can do on your own. Would you like me to list some of these things?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, part of it is making better choices and eating. While we can get away with eating slightly poorly when we're younger. The more we age, the more the quality of our food and the quantity counts. And so I only eat whole food. I try to eat only organic, even though it's slightly more expensive, and everybody will complain about that. I I wash my food very, very carefully. I use salted water and then I rinse it off. I prepare my food with very specific clean oils, and I observe how I'm feeling when I eat the food. So I'm not telling you don't eat meat or don't eat that. I'm saying be mindful of how the food you're eating affects your system. And that is so important. So that's one of the things. Mindful movement. Mindful movement may be walking. It might be gentle forms of yoga. You can't do the same kind of movements you did when you're younger, but that doesn't mean you can't move. There are lots of things you can do. You have to find things that don't make you feel like you are in chronic inflammation. Inflammation is aging. We don't want inflammation. So when you are hurting all the time, and I used to play too much tennis, then I was hurting for days afterwards. So now I don't play tennis, but I walk, I do yoga, I do things that feel good to my body. And believe it or not, I weigh less now than I did when I was playing 3 to 4 hours of tennis every day because my body was inflamed.
Good. As a yoga teacher, you have found in your research, from what I understand, there's a connection between yoga and brain health. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm a certified memory maintenance yoga teacher, and I became that when my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So I went through a program. And really, all yoga is good for your brain, but there are very specific types of yoga that are better for your brain. One of the practices that's great for your brain is called the Kirtan Kriya. And there's a lot of research on that. And you basically are doing things with your fingers. Sat, ta, na, ma. You do this over and over again. And at the same time, you're concentrating your attention up here, which is known as your third eye. You're breathing a certain way. So when you do all these things together, you're working your brain, you're working your nervous system, getting it into a calm state. You're also using your energetic channels. And then the other thing we do is we cross our channels of the left and right hemisphere. So there's some really neat things you can do with yoga to make this an anti-aging practice.
Okay. On your website, I saw that you talked something about a subject called HeartMath. I was wondering if you could tell our viewers what this is and how does it help your body?
Okay. Well, HeartMath is a particularly interesting practice. So everybody's heard of meditation, right?
Right.
But not everybody feels like they can meditate because meditation often has this feeling that I have to stop my mind from thinking. Well,
Okay.
HeartMath is a slightly different practice. The HeartMath Institute has been around for more than 30 years, and they discovered that we do have a brain inside of our heart. It's a series of neurons that actually communicate directly up with our brain through something called the vagus nerve. And so when you breathe directly to your heart center and then activate what we would call an uplifting emotion, and that could be anything. You imagine your grandchild, you imagine a beautiful spot in nature. And when you put these things together, you'll notice the rhythms of your heart will sync up like this. They'll start looking like this, and they sync up with your blood pressure, with your immune system, with your hormonal system, and your nervous system. And what you're doing is you're making everything work more efficiently. And
Okay.
a more efficient body is a body and a mind that will last longer.
Good to hear. Good to hear. I know you're very passionate about taking the best care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to age vibrantly. So hopefully we're all trying to achieve that as well. But I'd like to hear your advice on that.
Well, it's a lot of work, guys.
Okay.
It's not a magic bullet. It's not a pill. It's not
Right.
something you can do once in a while. You have
Okay.
to have a commitment. But if you have a reason for aging vibrantly, and a lot of people say to me, "Oh, Andrea, you want to live forever?" And it's like, no,
Right.
I just don't want to spend my later years debilitated. I
Okay.
want to spend my later years being active and being available for my children and grandchildren. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to laugh and enjoy. And so that's why you have to do all these things. Now,
Okay.
initially, it is going to seem like a lot,
Yeah.
but once you get in the habit, it's just going to be part of everyday life. It's going to become like brushing your teeth. I mean, for me, if I make a wrong choice, that's when it feels odd.
Okay.
So these choices become habitual when you practice them. And then you've got this, you just feel better. And then
Right.
you'll know because you won't feel good when you do something that doesn't work in your body. You're
Right.
a highly tuned car.
Yeah, I think, the some of factors like health concerns and stress and physical limitations can be tough for any age, not just seniors, every age. So handling stress in our daily lives may not be the easiest thing. So I'd like your take on that.
Well, I use the heart math practice a lot for
Okay.
that.
All right.
And so you can do the heart math practice, and I teach it. I teach it online. In fact, I have a free monthly meditation that I have people from all over the country attend with me.
Okay.
And it's 30 minutes of being guided through several of the heart math practices. And it is guaranteed to reduce stress. So there are
Okay.
simple practices you can do, but really you have to do things you enjoy.
Sure.
You've got to find every day something that gives you pleasure and joy. And
Okay.
that's a big stress reducer in itself.
I think you were going to do a yoga um, example
Oh,
for us.
I was just going to demonstrate one of the memory maintenance yoga things you can actually do in a chair. So I'm
Okay.
going to pull my chair back. You can see me still.
Sure.
Can
Okay.
you hear me? So really, what I teach, everything I teach can be done in a chair, but it can also be done standing up or on the floor. So
Okay.
one of the things you could do is cross your right elbow to your left knee. And this is not only working yourself cardiovascularly in a safe way. If you add the breathing, which is breathe in through the nose,
Okay.
if you can out through the nose, and extend the exhale. But the other thing this does is this crosses the hemispheres of your brain. So
Oh,
this is a
good.
very simple thing you could do. Another thing, and a lot of people get very, very tight and their breathing gets restricted through here. So I take one hand behind me and one hand on a leg, And you could do this with eyes open or eyes closed. And I
Okay.
twist mine. You know, you never want to go into pain, but when you come back, I want you to release all muscles and slump and then engage the muscles again. What we're doing is we're working with our brain. We're training our brain to say, this is relaxed.
Okay.
This is engaged.
All right.
This is relaxed. And this is engaged. So there's a lot of simple things like that you could
Good
do.
to hear. That's great. At our closing here, because we're running out of time, I'd like you to share your website for viewers to get more information about learning all that you do and what type of things you cover as a yoga teacher. So if you
Okay.
could share the website, I'd certainly like to hear that.
Sure. The best way to find me is to look up Heaven Lane Creations.
Okay.
Heaven Lane Creations. I used to live on Heaven Lane, and you can
Nice.
find me on social media that way. But if you're
Okay.
on YouTube, you could find me by Andrea Trank. I have a pretty active YouTube channel as
Oh,
well.
good. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Andrea Trank, for giving us some tips on aging vibrantly and taking good care of ourselves as we all go through the aging process together. This is something that everybody can follow some of the advice that you have given us today, and we appreciate your time and being with us on the show.
Namaste.
Thank you. And thank all of you for joining us on Our Ventura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone.